Welcome back to Medicine for These Times. I'm Beth Weinstein. Thanks for being here. And just a reminder, please take a moment, leave a review. I would greatly appreciate it. So, today I'm going to talk about one of the most triggering subjects out there, money. I don't know why this is just so triggering for so many people. I would say it's up there with death, sex, maybe some psychedelics. Maybe the word shaman is up there with money because the word shaman tends to get people all up in arms too. Anyways, I bring this up because this comes up every time I run a workshop or do some free coaching or, talk to someone on one of my discovery calls to inquire about one of my programs. And I feel like it's just so much in the collective that there is so much fear and scarcity out there, regardless if you actually have the money or if you don't have the money for whatever it is you want. There's just so much tied up in money. And I believe it is such a deep journey into healing money wounds. I have actually done a podcast episode. I forgot what it was titled, but it was something about how I worked with psychedelics to heal really deep money wounds because I will tell you, I was raised in a family of scarcity. I was raised in an upbringing thinking that we were on the verge of going homeless and broke and poor. And my entire nervous system for many, many years was just so in this state of anxiety and scarcity and fear. And, what I discovered many, many years later after doing so much deep inner work around this scarcity and money. And really, I wanted to personally get to the root of what all of this was in my life. So I have been working since I was a kid. I was actually made to do chores in order to get money. I was never just given money for any reason. It was always work equals money. And then when I was old enough to get a job, first I had an under the table kind of job when I wasn't old enough. So I worked that summer to make money. And then when I was old enough to get a legal job, I got a job. And so I have basically been working nonstop since I was, I don't know, 7, 8. I come from that mentality of you have to really work hard and suffer to make money. Money doesn't grow on trees. There's never enough, and to really hold on to it. And I think this really warped my mind because when I actually got out there into the world and started making money from a career, which by the way was not great money at the beginning, it was actually very low, but it was very exciting to me to have this paycheck come in every few weeks and just have this money available. So what I did was I fell into this pattern of making money and then just spending it. And I noticed this in my 20s at a young age where I would start getting better jobs and making more money. And it was like I had nothing more to show for it. And I could tell that there was a pattern running behind the scenes. So I made it one of my missions to start exploring like what was going on and how this was ingrained into my nervous system, my state of being with money, and to start exploring my relationship with money and healing it, just like we heal our inner child, just like we heal some of our deepest traumas, just like we might have to heal relationships and bad things that have happened and you know um our parental wounds and our upbringing and breakups, anything that upsets us or that causes wounds in us. And some take longer than others to heal, and some actually I believe do take multiple generations, maybe even lifetimes, and multiple generations, because some of this I do believe is epigenetics in our cells and our energy that is stored there on so many levels of really feeling unsafe here on earth, of not feeling like we belong, that we're held, that we're provided for by Mother Earth, by this life. And of course, look at our society. We have to work to make money to buy most of our survival, food, which technically maybe we don't have to. We could forage, maybe, or farm. Even that costs money. But, it's nature of the system. Money is part of our system, whether we like it or not. And this is one reason I like to talk about it, because what I believe happens out there in the psychedelic space, in the coaching space, in the spiritual space, maybe not in the coaching space, because a lot of coaches love talking about money almost like to the opposite spectrum where they're just talking about it all the time. And it's also very annoying. But in the psychedelic space and in the spiritual space, the healing world, it's almost taboo to bring money into the conversation, especially psychedelics. And I find this to be so interesting because I've talked to many people about how there's so many people in the psychedelic space just trying to spiritually bypass the fact that money is part of it. And here's the thing, I am just a solopreneur who is doing my best to make a difference in the world and serve her clients. I am not a venture capital fund trying to pour in, $50 million into the psychedelic space and patent psilocybin strains. So let's just name what is actually here. I am not funded by anybody other than myself. I am just a solopreneur business with a team that I hire and pay. But other than that, I'm just a person who wants to make a difference in the world. So pick your battles when it comes to money in the psychedelic space. So if you're going to yell at anyone on Instagram about money, please go yell at the big VCs that are pouring in the multiple millions and even billions into this space. So I will say that. But what I want to address is that money is here and it's part of your work, it's part of this space. And we need to stop bypassing it. This is almost like shadow work. It's like death, right? Why is everybody so afraid to talk about death or face death or, come to terms with it? And that is one beautiful benefit about working with psychedelics is you get to very often, depending on what you're working with, really go into that death process. And, Buddhism is centered around this, like learning how to live by learning how to die, really coming to terms with this idea and this notion of impermanence, that nothing, not even this little moment, even your best stillness, not permanent. There is nothing permanent in our reality. And the more we can come to terms with that, the better will just live, the happier we are, the more at peace we are. And so we cannot just ignore or brush under the rug this kind of elephant in the room that is money. And of course, me as a business coach in the psychedelic space, I have definitely not earned the level of respect that I would like to earn in the psychedelic space because I am one of the few people out there who are talking about business and money. But then again, I am also one of the few people out there that are serving a lot of struggling people in this space, and not just the psychedelic space, but people who are starting up integration coaching businesses or other kinds of coaching businesses, even a lot of therapists who are getting burnout, who want to change their business model, healers, transformational leaders, spiritual teachers. The reality is, there are a lot of people struggling to grow real businesses that really support them, and if you don't have a business that supports you, you cannot really support people well. And I have brought this up on many of my psychedelic workshops that I've held over the last few months, that the last thing I think you or anyone out there wants to do is be in a psychedelic space, whether it's with a one on one or a group, it doesn't matter. The last thing anyone wants to do is be with a psychedelic facilitator or space holder or guide who is struggling or who is burnt out or who is only doing it for the money. That scares me. And I know it happens. It's out there and it's part of our world. There's always going to be people that are called to do things just because it's easy and it's a quick buck. And then there's people who are truly walking a path of integrity and service. And of course, every shaman has a bad day. Every space holder probably gets tired. I mean, let's get real. There's probably days where even the best, biggest hearted, open-hearted, high integrity space holder out there maybe has an off day and maybe shouldn't be serving that day. But, who am I to judge? But this is where it all loops back to bringing in this conversation around money and being supported, and also learning to see money differently and start to embrace it and stop denying that it is part of your work. I get a lot of people writing in saying, I can't afford your programs. And basically, they say they can't afford any of my programs, which I find funny because my programs range from $400 up to, five figures. And it's like, well, okay, if you can't afford the $400, I would love to know why not. What is happening that you even feel stretched by a few $100s. And this is where I start to observe people deep into their money stories. And here's the thing, I am not saying that there are not people who are truly struggling. And I am not bypassing the fact that there is a massive imbalance in our world and in our, especially here in the Western world, with income disparity and women not being paying fairly and opportunities maybe not being made for certain people. I am not saying that, but I am saying what I am here to talk about are those who have an opportunity to actually do this healing work, to start to see money differently, to allow it to enter into your life. I actually had this talk with someone. I think it was during my last free coaching session about seeing money as you would a small child. For those of you who've done any inner child work, you know that a huge part of it is to get in touch with this part of you that is this baby, that is this small child, that is carrying these wounds, and to learn how to reparent yourself, how to be that mother for yourself, and to become integrated with your inner child or your inner teenager or whatever age you're stuck at. And on some level, for those, and I'm only speaking from my own personal experience because I have done so much deep work around it and I still am. I have been very successful for many years now. Thank God I have worked my butt off, and I've definitely had moments where I've plateaued, where I'm like, okay, something's off here. I can't seem to get past a certain point, or I'm not raising my rates enough, or I'm not valuing myself. I've done so much deep work, but one thing I have done is just really deep inner work around scarcity and money, and really changing my perception, because it actually is a choice of how we want to perceive money. And the one thing I see a lot of people get stopped in their success, in their business, and in their abundance is their beliefs around money and people with money. And even someone I know recently, I said to him a few weeks ago, I said, why aren't you famous yet? This is one of the most talented musicians I've ever known in my life. Has just, and it's not about the fame, by the way. It's about, I want his music to reach more people because it is just incredible music. It is beyond normal. It's outstanding. It's extraordinary. And it is also very healing, conscious music that I do believe the world needs to hear more of. And so I'm like, why aren't you out there more? Like, why are you not huge by now? And what's interesting is I asked him to talk about this. And one of the first things I noticed was a story. And I could see that it was a subconscious belief that was running behind the scenes that was actually keeping him from that success. And I know, pinpointing that one little thing, like, hey, what is that you just said? Do you notice it? Do you notice what you're saying? And to really slow down and start to notice the stories you tell yourself around money and abundance and the system and capitalism and all the problems in the world and how much you don't like certain things. Here's the thing, I am able to hold both. I have done so much work to understand that I freaking hate our system. I think so much of it is broken. And I do think a lot of it needs to be fixed. And I think it actually will be, because who knows what might happen. But, like anything, what must go up must come down, and vice versa. It's just the nature of cycles. It always happens. So I have full trust that whether we see it in my lifetime or not, there's always going to be a time where, money is going to be different. Abundance is going to be different. The whole world's going to be different. The systems will change because they've never stayed the same, even though it seems like they have, so just, I know that. So that's what keeps me going, is like, okay, I don't like it, but it's here. This is the true definition, by the way, of spiritual bypassing. It's like people don't want to admit that something is there and they're just bypassing it. But we have to first acknowledge that this system is what it is in this present moment today, whether you like it or you don't like it. So first, accept it. This is like the very premise of spiritual growth, right? It's like first you have to recognize. By the way, I will quote Tara Brach, her RAIN method, RAIN. If I can remember the exact acronym, recognize, accept. I forgot what she uses for the word I, but I will use the word integrate and nurture. And I've been on her retreats before. I'm like, I forgot what she uses for anyways, integrate makes the most sense, but she uses either integrate or a different similar word. Recognize, accept or acknowledge, I think one of the two, integrate and nurture. So, okay, this is Tara Brach's Rain, but my own take on it. But this is the way to transforming your relationship with money. You have to recognize where we are in the world right now and what is true in the system in this present moment, even if it might change in 6 months or 6 years or 600 years. Right now is all that matters. So accept it. Even if you don't like it, accept it. It's like anything, you have to accept, okay, I did not like that, so and so abused me at a certain age, but I can't bypass that happened. So I have to actually just recognize it and start to work with it. This is what integration is. So recognize that money is here, recognize that our system is here, whether you like it or not. And I really encourage you to start to accept it. Think, and here's where it is a choice. I do a Course in Miracles work every single morning. And a huge part of the premise of A Course in Miracles is choosing this perception, shifting from the perception of fear to love, and choosing love perception. So when they say love, it's like you have a choice to see everything in with one viewpoint or another. And so you can choose to see money as bad, evil, blah, 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 all these people, the the lizard people that run the world, whatever you want to say, or you can actually choose to look at all the positives that are being created with money. This is what I've been choosing for many, many, many years. I always tell the story of how one of my old, very good friends is actually a billionaire. And he's one of those billionaires that has earned billions by selling companies and blah, blah, blah. But he's also created really amazing companies that help humankind, or at least I think they do. Because they're good healthcare companies, or at least they were. I don't know. We'll see. But he's also put a lot of time, energy, and money into supporting a lot of other businesses, movements, nonprofits, big projects that are doing good in the world, that are making a difference. So, since I've hung around with a lot of people like that over the years, I've seen that, yeah, there's actually a lot of people with tons of money doing great things. They are not all evil, the Bill Gates of the world or whoever you hate. Mark Zuckerberg. Mark, please don't hold this against me. I'm like begging to those algorithms. Mark, I don't hate you. I'm kidding. So, really choose your perception of how you want to see money. So, this is where you can accept it and then start to integrate it and really start to slow yourself down and notice the stories that come up that you tell yourself when even listening to this episode. You're like, this girl triggers me. She's always talking about money and business. Ew, why am I listening to this? Or are you like, wow, maybe I should start to pay attention to my stories that I tell myself? A lot of the stories that I see, and I've been doing this work so long because it's integrated into my mastermind program, and it always comes up as you step into bigger, more expansive parts of your business and put yourself out there and create new offerings. You are also going to be faced with, what are they worth? What do you want to value yourself at? How much do you want to make? What do you feel like you want to charge for this? And so there's always wounds and triggers that come up around money. So I've been doing this a long time. But this is where, if you start to integrate it and pay attention to the beliefs, the stories, write them down, just get them out there and just start to give them some love. This is like the inner child work. It's not about pushing them away and saying, oh, I hate you. You're the one keeping me broke. It's that one story that's keeping me broke. But take those stories that are keeping you broke, and hopefully you're not broke, by the way. But take those stories that are keeping you from having the abundance that you want and start to integrate them, start to pay attention to them and give them love and see them fully. And see, you can even, I mean, to me the stories don't matter, but if it makes you feel better, you can even pinpoint like, oh wow, that was what my father used to say, or oh, that's what my mother used to do and this is why it happened. Or I have this deep ancestral belief that runs in like generations around suffering, or having to work hard, or having to not allowed to be wealthy, or made an unconscious vow to always make less money than your parents, whatever it is. I've done so much NLP work and subconscious reprogramming around this. And they say this is a huge part of it. So I encourage you to really nurture and integrate these stories around money in the psychedelic space, money in the healing space, psychedelic facilitators wanting to be paid, even some facilitators charging 10, 15, $20,000. You know, I know people that are charging very little to the point where they're barely making money. And then I know people charging, in the $15,000, $20,000, actually $40,000 range for a psychedelic experience. And yes, I can name the name of that person that I know charging 40 or 50 or maybe even more. Um, and nurture it. Nurture the fact that it's here and it's okay and it doesn't make them wrong or you right. It just is. And even though I have zero desire to charge $40,000 for a one-time psychedelic experience, I do believe all the humans on this planet are free to do whatever they want. And if that works for that person and they value it and other people are willing to pay and they feel good about it, who are you to say what's right or wrong? This is where it's the deep inner work into really knowing yourself and being your sovereign pillar of light that knows what's best for you and what decisions you want to make in your business, where your value systems are, what you want to bring to the work you do. This is why sacred reciprocity is actually one of the first things I teach as you go to create your offering inside of my mastermind program. It's also something I bring up on a lot of workshops I teach because it's so important to get clear on who you are, what you believe in, what your values are, and building them into your business so that you actually really can feel good about receiving in what you deserve for your help, for your time, for your energy. Because in the end, you have to really value yourself. And I will say there is nothing like really making the kind of money that you can actually start supporting others with. Meaning, every year, especially around Giving Friday and after my summit in the fall, I always give a huge part of my summit away. And then during, right before the end of the year and during it was Giving Tuesday, I donate to nonprofits that I really care about. And it feels good to be able to give freely and not even blink and not even feel scared and just give. And additionally, to be able to really support causes that I believe in, and not just financially, but energetically and physically, and like really give. And you can only do that when you're truly thriving and supported. So this is one thing I really encourage you and I teach everybody to try to see money as how we can actually create change, how we can create a better world, how there are literally, parts of this world where people still don't have access to clean water. And that is one thing I personally believe in a lot, where it's like, I mean, we take it for granted that we have so much clean water available all the time here in the Western world, even though some of it's not actually clean. But you know what I mean. But there are places on this earth that struggle for the basics. And imagine if you had all that money that you could just give, that you could actually fund a project that brought water to someone or a whole community. I've been immersed in indigenous communities or mestizo communities down in Peru, and I've seen, really ultimate poverty. And I've also seen like how happy they are when we give them gifts and when we send them things and we're able to bring them money or tip them and see them well supported. This is all part of the cycle of abundance. So I could talk forever about this, but I just wanted to bring this up because I find this to be one of my favorite subjects. And I know it ends up triggering a lot of people, but one of my personal missions is to have this be out in the open as a subject that we can talk freely and openly about without having people spiritually bypassing or getting triggered or pretending like money doesn't exist in the space, because it does. And, I have yet to see, I know I've heard about them, but most of the indigenous and mestizo communities that I know of, that I've worked with, that my clients have worked with, they all charge money. They're not working for free. It's, making plant medicine, it's a very expensive process. There's a lot of human labor. There's a lot of growing. It's not like, it's just so abundant that you can yank it out, and you don't want to do that. You want to find someone who's growing it sustainably. And this goes for many medicines. And for those of you who've grown mushrooms, it is not just like so easy all the time, and it's not free all the time. So we really have to bring in this acknowledgement that the medicine space, the psychedelic space, has money in it, and it's just part of our reality. And if you choose to work completely for free, all the power to you. But please, I encourage you, do not struggle. You need to be thriving in order to serve this planet. And this planet needs you to be living your best life and to be really taken care of, as I say, energetically, spiritually, and financially, in order to be of better service in this world. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. And please let me know if this triggered you or if you have any comments. I always love to know. And how do you feel about money? I would love to hear it. Thank you so much for being here. Have a beautiful week, and I will see you next week.